Today we're going to talk about zero trust and immutable backups. So zero trust is a security model based on the principle never trust, always verify. This means that no one inside or outside of your network is automatically trusted. Every access request is verified based on identity, device, and context. Instead of assuming that being inside your network is safe, zero trust continuously checks and revalidates permissions to minimize risk. Immutable backups, on the other hand, mean unchangeable. Once data is written to an immutable backup, it cannot be altered, deleted, or encrypted, not even by an admin or ransomware. This ensures that you always have a clean, recoverable copy of your data, even in a worst-case scenario. Together, zero trust protects access, and immutable backups protect your data. Even if attackers breach your systems, they can't move freely or destroy your backups. This keeps your organization resilient against cyber threats. Next slide. Before we go too far, I want to go ahead and introduce our team here. I'm Greg. I've been a technical sales engineer at XCal Tech since 2022. I'll be talking to you today about zero trust and immutable backups. And this is Ben. He's the mastermind behind our scenes. He ensures every webinar runs flawlessly with an impressive 13 years of experience crafting compelling marketing campaigns, designing stunning websites. He's the creative force that helps drive the success of our customers. His expertise, innovation, and dedication make him an invaluable asset to our team. Ben's got it. If you need a marketing campaign that's going to grab attention like a puppy in a superhero costume, Ben's your guy. So while he's over here quietly working his magic, just know that without Ben, we'd all be staring at blank screens and broken web links. So Ben, thank you very much for your hard work. If you've got any questions, go ahead and put your hand up. Ben's going to kind of go through how you'll do that on the next slide.
Yeah, so just a little bit of quick housekeeping here. So everybody will be muted during the presentation. If you have a question as Greg is going along, you can go ahead and submit that question using the button that's up here and highlighted in red. I'll keep track of these as we go along, and when we get to the end of the presentation, we'll be opening up the floor for the Q&A, and we can address any questions that have been submitted. When we get to the end of the presentation and we do open up for the Q&A, you can use this button down here to raise your hand if you like, and we can even allow you to unmute yourself and speak your question and ask it that way if that's easier. So just wanted to cover those things, and that was all. I think we're ready to move on and let Greg begin.
Excellent. So we're going to start off with a question, and the question is quite simply, how often do you verify network users? Please respond to the question in the poll here. So do you always authenticate users? Do you only authenticate when they forget their car keys, or do you verify monthly just to keep it exciting? All right, so the correct answer is always authenticate users and authorize every request. Go ahead and go next slide here. So standard networking versus zero trust. There's a security gap. Traditional networking models operate on the assumption that internal traffic is inherently safe. Once a device or user is authenticated, they're often granted broad access to network resources. This is a fundamental flaw because it doesn't account for inside threats, compromised credentials, or malicious actors who gain access to the internal network. Unlike with zero trust models, which enforce continuous verification and least privileged access, standard networks typically do not challenge users or devices once they're inside. This creates a significant flaw. For example, in many offices, simply plugging a laptop into an open Ethernet port can provide access to internal resources, systems, shared drives, and very sensitive data. The lack of ongoing authentication allows lateral movement, where attackers or unauthorized users can move freely within your network, increasing the potential for data breaches or ransomware attacks. Without proper segmentation, access controls, and real-time verification, traditional networks remain highly vulnerable. To mitigate these risks, organizations should consider adopting a zero trust principle, which assumes that no user or device should be trusted by default. Instead, verification happens continuously. Access is strictly limited based on need, and network segmentation reduces exposure. Implementing measures like network access control, multi-factor authentication, and endpoint security can significantly improve protection against both internal and external threats. By shifting away from outdated trust and verify approach to a never trust, always verify mindset, businesses can greatly reduce the risk of unauthorized access and cyber threats. Next slide. In today's cybersecurity landscape, traditional network security means assume everything inside the network is safe. But with rising insider threats, ransomware, and lateral attacks, this approach is no longer sufficient. That's why Zero Trust comes built on 4 key tenets. And these are used to secure a modern network. First, verify explicitly. Again, instead of assuming trust, Zero Trust continuously authenticates, authorizes users and devices and applications based on many factors, its identity, location, and device health. This ensures that only legitimate entities gain access at any moment. Second, least privilege access. Users and devices should only have the permissions necessary for their specific tasks, nothing more. This reduces the risk of data breaches by limiting damage by a compromised account. Third, assume that breach has already happened. Instead of assuming everything is safe, Zero Trust operates as if an attacker is already inside the network. This mindset drives continuous monitoring, real-time threat detection, and proactive security measures to quickly contain and mitigate threats. The fourth tenet is micro-segmentation. Networks should be divided into small, isolated zones, ensuring that even if one zone is breached, the attacker can't move to other zones and other areas of the network. This stops widespread damage and limits exposure to critical systems and your proprietary data. By enforcing these 4 tenets, Zero Trust strengthens security, minimizes risk, and ensures that you're better prepared for cyber threats that are occurring every day. Adopting this approach alongside with immutable backups creates a resilient cybersecurity strategy protecting both access and data integrity. Next slide. So again, internal doesn't mean safe. Employees, contractors, and compromised devices already within your network can unintentionally or maliciously launch attacks. They can steal sensitive data or spread ransomware. Since traditional security measures often focus on keeping threats out, they may not detect these internal threats until it's too late. Once an attacker or malware gains access to the network, that's when the real danger begins. Cyber criminals can begin probing for weak access controls and vulnerable systems to exploit. They look for misconfigurations, loose permissions, they escalate permissions, and eventually they gain access to your critical data. Applications and infrastructure are the next thing they go after. From there, they can exfiltrate sensitive information, deploy further attacks, or even take control of your entire system. So internal doesn't mean safe. Next slide, please. So let's kind of follow up on some of what I've talked about so far. What is Zero Trust? Go ahead and answer this in our poll. So verify everyone continuously, inside and out. Is it that friend who doubts everyone, even you? Or just trust everyone and hope things work out? What is Zero Trust? Everyone got that correct. Verify everyone continuously, inside and out. Great. So thank you for paying attention. Next slide here is immutable backups. So imagine you've got a security time-sensitive, you've got a time-sensitive safe, a security lock. Once you've placed your valuables inside and you turn the dial, nobody, no matter how powerful or persuasive, can open it until the timer expires. Immutable backups work in the same way. Once data is written into it, it's locked away, immune to accidental deletions, malicious attacks, or even ransomware encryptions. No admin, no hacker, no rogue script can affect or alter the data. It can't be erased until the retention period is over. So this ensures there's always data for you to rely on when you need it. You've got clean backups that can be relied on. Next slide. Again, we're going to kind of break this into 4 groups. We've got ransomware protection, data integrity, regulatory compliance, and reliable disaster recovery. So there are 4 major benefits of immutable backups. Ransomware protection attacks, they're on the rise. And the first thing attackers do is encrypt or delete your backup data. If you've got immutable backups, this prevents this. Once they're written, they're there and you can rely on them. You can go back to them. Our standard retention period is 30 days, 1 month. So you can rely on having clean data even if you're breached. Data integrity. With immutable storage, organizations ensure that their backups remain unaltered, corruption-free. It's particularly important when you're trying to maintain accurate historical records. and again, protecting against accidental or malicious data manipulation. If you've got regulatory compliance, a lot of industries like healthcare, finance, and government require strict data retention under regulations like HIPAA, GDRP, or SEC Rule 17A-4. Immutable backups help organizations comply with these mandates by guaranteeing records are preserved in their original state. And the fourth, reliable disaster recovery. When disasters strike, whether it's due to cyber attacks, hardware failure, or natural disasters, quick recovery is critical. Immutable backups ensure a trusted, untampered with recovery point, allowing organizations to restore operations efficiently without concerns about data corruption. This reduces downtime, it reduces financial losses, and it minimizes your operational disruptions. Next slide. Security framework. Security, it's not just one thing. It's a security model that, again, assumes no one inside or outside the network should be trusted by default. The Windows Server environment involves strict access controls, continuous monitoring, and proactive threat detection. Identity access management uses Active Directory, Azure Active Directory with multi-factor authentication. You can apply role-based access control, privileged access management, and limited administrative access. Implementing zero trust ensures continuous authentication and strict access controls. It reduces inside threats and lateral movements. Backups prevent critical data from being ransomed or accidentally deleted. They provide a stable framework and minimize downtime if you're breached. Next slide. So best business practice says that you should have a 3-2-1 backup strategy. With immutable offsite protection, the 3-2-1 backup strategy is widely used. It ensures data is protected from failures against cyber attacks and disasters. Follows a simple rule. You should have 3 copies of your data stored on 2 different types of media with 1 copy offsite. So your production data is the original copy of your data. That's what you're using day to day. You should have your first backup copy. That's an on-site copy of your data. That should be maintained on-site for fast recovery so you don't run into a bottleneck on the internet. You might think that your download speed is adequate, but when you're trying to recover your entire environment, you'll find that it is a bottleneck. An on-site copy is extremely valuable for fast recovery. And then for extreme situations where you've got a catastrophic failure, you've got a failure at the building level. Your site is offline completely and you need to spin up somewhere else. Having an offsite backup is extremely important and invaluable in a situation like that. Go ahead and next slide. So we're going to follow up on some of this that I've gone over so far. Quick question: what are immutable backups? Go ahead and answer this in the poll. They're uneditable data, safe from ransomware. It's a do not disturb sign for data, or they're backups that auto-delete after 24 hours with no history kept. All right, so those who've answered have answered correctly. It is uneditable data, safe from ransomware. Thank you for paying attention here. Next question, or I should say next slide here. We're excited to invite you to come out to visit our new office in Rolling Meadows. If you're interested in seeing our office space and learning more about what we're up to, please reach out and schedule a tour. It's a great opportunity to meet our team face to face, check out our facilities, and get a feel for the environment that we've created. We'd love to show you around, discuss how we can collaborate or help you with any needs you might have. Feel free to contact us anytime or set up your visit. Go ahead and next slide. So again, we've talked about it a couple of times here today, but cyber threats are evolving, and businesses of all sizes are realizing that they have to have a strong cybersecurity measure or take measures and have them in place to always ensure that they're covered. And cyber insurance is a big part of that. But how do you know what your coverage actually is? What are the risks you should be protecting against? Do you have enough coverage? And what's changing in the world of cyber insurance? We've got an event coming up with Fifth Wall. This is a virtual event, Wednesday, February 26th, between 4 and 5 o'clock Central Time. We'd love to have you join us, and we'd love to have you bring a copy of your current cyber insurance policy so we can take a look at it, see if you meet the terms and conditions and whether or not you'd actually be paid if you were breached in a cyber event. Go ahead and go next slide here, Ben. So I appreciate your time here again today. If you've got any questions, I appreciate you having saved them until the end. I didn't see any hands raised during the presentation. So if you do have any questions about what we've covered today with immutable backups or the benefits of implementing a zero trust framework in your environment, I'd love to hear them. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, again, but it's invaluable to protect your business. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. We're going to send you a follow-up email after this. And again, thank you for your time and participation.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.